Hey everyone, hope you can hear us okay. Welcome to another Meetup session. Cool, so Joseph, should we just kick off now? We'll
Yeah, I
give it
think
a
we're ready.
few.
We're good to go. We have 20 attendees already. Thanks, guys, for
Cool.
joining. Go ahead, Ash.
Awesome, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever place you're dialing from. Welcome to this month's OpenShift Meetup. I'm Asher Benjamin, so I'll be your host today. We hope everyone's doing well and you've had a good week so far. A quick introduction, I guess, to the NZ team. Most of which you are familiar with already, but you have myself, you have Michael Calizo, a very familiar face to you all. And Mike is one of our senior Red Hat solution architect based in Wellington. We also have Joseph, who's a technical account manager. So Joseph usually runs the session for us, but today we're basically giving him a break. So I'll be hosting today. And then we have Andrew Spurgeon, who's our solution architects manager. A bit of housekeeping. So as usual, the session will be recorded and we will share the link with everyone when it becomes available. Interaction, chat comments, there is a chat section bottom right corner of your screen. So go ahead and test it out now if you like by quickly saying hi to everyone. And I guess we tend to forget them. Those meetups is a great place to kind of make friends and meet new people. So, make use of that. So chat to people, share ideas, and kind of help make the session more interactive if you can. Questions. So post your questions in the questions section, and we'll try and answer these questions during the presentation or at the end. And polls as well. So during the session, we'll create a couple of poll questions. So keep an eye on those and participate in these questions if you can. So today's topic, today we'll be navigating the ins and outs of GitOps. How does GitOps work? What it means to practice, I guess, in the GitOps paradigm, and things to look out for along the way as well. So a very exciting topic, and I'm sure everyone's looking forward to it. So our speaker today is Christian Hernandez. Christian is a technology fanatic with experience in multiple fields, including infrastructure engineering, systems administration, enterprise architecture, tech support, and management. And currently, Christian is part of the Cloud Platform BU at Red Hat, and he's focusing on Kubernetes and Cloud-Native Architecture. So, Christian, thanks for your time today and to join us and talk about GitOps in this session.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I was actually thinking if Christian is going to play some of the guitars at the background, that'll be fun, I reckon.
Yeah, if people start getting bored of the presentation, then maybe that's my backup plan. I'll start maybe a little bit.
That's an awesome plan. That sounds awesome. Cool. So that's before I hand over to Christian, we really wanted to just let you know about Red Hat Summit. So this year it's slightly different where they kind of divided it into 3 different sections. So the first section is in April, 27th to 28th. So register if you can. It's all virtual. You'll be looking at things like keynotes, there's spotlights, there's live demos, and there's obviously access to some very intelligent Red Hatters. So I think at this stage, Christian, I'll stop presenting and I'll hand over the mic to you so you can kick off the session for us, please.
All right. Thank you. Now this is the weird dance where we figure out screen sharing, right? Where we hand off the. So let me know if you can see my slide. Can you see that?
It's all good, mate. We can see that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So just kind of extending the introduction. Thank you for the introduction, by the way. So I am a TMM here at Red Hat in the Cloud Platforms business unit, focusing on core Kubernetes, Windows containers, and GitOps. And this is what we have. Our topic of today is demystifying GitOps, right? I want to go take this opportunity, when they reached out to me to say, hey, do you want to do this meetup? I thought it'd be kind of cool to kind of go beyond the buzzword. Things become buzzwordy a lot of the times, and it's kind of cool to kind of just peel that back and just kind of see what it actually means. So a little bit more about me. I am available at ChristianH814 on Twitter. So you can reach out to me on Twitter. DMs are open. So anytime you want to have questions or anything, feel free. And all my stuff that either I show or I demo or present is on GitHub. So that's my handle at GitHub. I am also running a bi-weekly Twitch stream, what we call GitOps Guide to the Galaxy. So it's essentially every 2 weeks, me and Chris Short, we kind of pick a topic and we dig deep in terms of GitOps, what it means to do GitOps. So OpenShift.tv. So if we do those in North American time, it'd be kind of early for you guys. It's probably 4 o'clock in the morning when we do the live stream, but you can see it all on OpenShift TV, the recordings afterwards. So with that being said, talking about demystifying GitOps. So I think it'd be good to kind of say, what is GitOps? Okay, so what is GitOps in general? So GitOps simply is an extension of infrastructure as a code. So taking the idea of having everything in Git and being it a single source of truth for your infrastructure. So taking the idea of infrastructure as code and then kind of further extending it out. So GitOps really is a process of taking what the developers have been doing this whole time, right? Doing Git commits, using Git as a source of truth, doing builds from Git, doing their process from Git, right? Doing their pull requests, their merges, their code reviews, all of that stuff is in Git, and they're using that as a single source of truth. Let's bring that over to the ops side, right? So let's take what the developers were doing already, that process, and let's take our infrastructure as code and shove it in there as well in that same process. So I think it's perfectly stated here. It's a natural evolution of Agile and DevOps methodologies. Chris Short once said GitOps is a holy grail of DevOps, and really, as this practice is evolving and as it's gaining more traction, GitOps is really what DevOps looks like in practice, right? So it's GitOps isn't separate from DevOps. It's what it looks like in practice. So let's dive a little deeper in what I mean by that, right? So first, I want to say, okay, well, why would I want to use GitOps? What's the advantage for me, right? So things like people saying, hey, it takes me weeks or months to provision a new environment. My application behaves differently in production than it did in test. I can't easily roll back changes. Yada yada yada. It's it's supposed to solve all of these problems, and it's looking and sounding very familiar, right? All these problems are addressed by DevOps, right? So the advantages you get from GitOps is the same as DevOps, only because it's what it looks like in practice. If DevOps is the culture, if DevOps is the way we do things, GitOps is how that looks like in the real world. So, kind of extending some of the benefits is essentially, since everything is in Git now, all changes are auditable. So looking at Git revisions, looking to see, since everything's in Git, now you have a convenient audit trail of everything that's happened, not only in your application, not only in your deployment, but also in your infrastructure, right? So since everything has to go through that Git process, that Git merging process, it's all there. You have that convenient audit trail. And then you have the standardization of how to roll forward and how to roll backwards in the event of failures. Disaster recovery becomes a lot simpler. Disaster recovery is essentially, okay, let's spin up another cluster and reapply all the manifests. Like we have a known, state already in Git. Let's just reapply that. There's been there was some cool articles written by Weaveworks, right? Weaveworks is the company that actually coined the phrase GitOps a long time ago, talking about how their customers' recovery was essentially you're talking about like in minutes, they got it back. And most of that was remapping the storage properly, right? Because all it was just kind of I'm just going to replay all these manifests. And then the experience to the end users, whether it be developers, whether it be operations, whether it be security guys, doesn't matter. It all happens between pushes and pull requests, right? So it's essentially operations by pull request is another thing you may hear out there when talking about GitOps or people coining those phrases. Is essentially my operations experience. It's now the exact same as a developer experience, and it's by pull request. So GitOps essentially is for everyone. So when I first started, learning about GitOps, talking about GitOps a couple of years ago, it was kind of quoted around as a developer tool, right? It's like, well, it's something developers use for their CI/CD pipeline. So no, it's for everyone. Since we're talking about a DevOps culture, we're talking about DevOps practices. It's really for everyone, right? Whether you're a rockstar developer or you're like this Oracle operations guy, it's for everyone on the team. So since it's a practice, since it's everyone's involved, it is literally for everyone. So we'll take a moment here. Since we're talking about so kind of getting a Kubernetes 101, since we're talking about infrastructure as code has actually been around for a long time. Infrastructure as code has been around. I don't know if you guys remember, using like Puppet back in the day, using Puppet, using Chef. I was a big Chef user back in the day. You clone your VM template, you boot it up, you do your Chef run or your Puppet run, and then later Ansible. You got essentially your infrastructure as code workflow. Infrastructure as code isn't anything new. A lot of operation folks have been using it. But it's really when Kubernetes came around where we finally got a platform that was declarative. So we have, before, some of these tools, we didn't really have a platform that was declarative like Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is really a declarative model of having your applications running, right? It's a container-based. It is declarative, right? I want one or two or whatever, right? I want 3 instances of my application running. It'll always keep that running. It's declarative. So, but too long didn't read, right? TLDR, it's a resource scheduler. I have a workload. I need it scheduled somewhere. Kubernetes takes care of it. And it's really when Kubernetes came in that this idea of GitOps really took off. And so since OpenShift is based on Kubernetes, right? It fits very well in this space, right? So OpenShift using Kubernetes as a core is an automated way of deploying Kubernetes with a lot of tool sets on top of it, right? So this is OpenShift Meetup. I don't have to sell OpenShift to you. You guys know about OpenShift. But it's kind of just to say that, OpenShift is an automated Kubernetes platform. So it kind of fits right in, right? So OpenShift and GitOps are really a perfect match with each other. On the one hand, you have GitOps, the idea of declarative operations, everything stored in Git, declarative model. And then you have now a platform that leverages that, the platform that says, well, we're a declarative platform. And so, it's, GitOps in like traditional environments, right? So like, these, I'm thinking back my older days where I was doing everything with VMs and, Puppet and then later on Chef. There was a lot of automation and scripting to get that declarative environment up and running. Whereas when you're using GitOps and OpenShift, there's a lot less of that for you because a lot of that is taken care of for you. We're leveraging the Kubernetes control loop to keep everything in sync for us. So we no longer have to script some of these things for us. So it's all built in for us. So I'm going to pause there. Are there any questions before I get into the GitOps principles?
No questions, Christian, so far. So carry on if you can.
Okay, cool. So just some of the guiding principles. I like to think of this as guiding principles. And I always like to think of this as it's a GitOps journey. And a lot of the times us especially at Red Hat, but this is across all all companies, right? We use the journey, kind of loses its meaning, but I actually mean it as a journey, right? So I have opinions today that I didn't have like 3 weeks ago using GitOps, right? Just because it's just like an ever evolving, and you just learn things, and people are learning from each other, right? As this grows. So, but I kind of collected these GitOps principles as I've been working with it, as I've been talking with customers, talking with other engineers, talking with other companies like Weaveworks, and we kind of this is kind of the general consensus, right? And it doesn't mean this won't change, but this is kind of like a good guiding principles. So first and foremost, you want to separate your application source code from your manifest. So meaning for each application, you'll have your application code itself, and then you'll have its deployment repo. There will be 2 separate repos, right? They are they're separate from each other, because you want your application's lifecycle and your deployment lifecycle are independent of each other. So you don't want a single comment, right, or single change in your application to roll out a whole new deployment of your infrastructure if it doesn't need to. So that's why you want to keep those separate. Deployment manifests kept in standard Kubernetes manifests, right? Me, I'm a YAML guy. There's probably most of us are YAML guys, or some JSON guys there. It doesn't really matter as long as you are storing them in a standard way. This even includes Helm charts, right? So there's a way to store Helm charts in a Git repo in a standard YAML way. And there's tools out there to help you out with that. But just kind of like the idea is leverage the tool that you're using. So the underlying infrastructure is Kubernetes. You're going to be storing standard Kubernetes manifests. Avoid duplication of YAML across the environments, right? Many times you have many, production isn't just like one production cluster. It could be a fleet of clusters. And your deployment should reflect your deployment shouldn't have to have that many copies of the same YAML, because then that defeats the purpose. So avoid duplication of your YAMLs across environments. Manifest should be applied with standard OpenShift and K8s tooling, right? So let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's use standard Kubernetes tooling. So the last 2, I think, is very, very important. Code review, very important. Code review, right? I should have put it 4 times. It's very important. Make sure your process is in place. The process is more important than what, right? Like what you're using. So, and again, use protected branches. That goes along with a code review. This is just standard good Git practices. I find that I have to say this. Developers are probably, oh yeah, that makes sense. So some of the operation folks that are going into this world, they're not. Some of you'd be surprised. Some of them have never used Git before, so it's kind of you need to say some of these things out loud. Cool. So your day 2 operations is going to look like PRs, right? So in this world, the developers are right at home. So essentially, you fork the repo, you make a PR, you go through the process, you merge it, then that gets applied. So it's essentially the workflow is actually pretty simple once you get it down. It's essentially my changes to my environment are now via the PR process. So I want to take this opportunity to say that GitOps isn't a single tool itself, right? So it's not you can't go and buy Kubernetes off can't buy GitOps off the shelf. Like, I want exactly one GitOps, please. Like, you can't like go and buy GitOps off the shelf, because one, GitOps isn't a thing, it's a process. Let's just remember that. I'm going to keep repeating that. GitOps is a process. These are the tools of the trade. So if you are a developer and you want, I need a GitOps way of doing my CI/CD process, right? You're going to use something like Argo CD. Argo CD is something I use even from the operations side. But Argo CD is really tailored to the CI/CD process of getting things, builds into a cluster. Essentially, I want to build my application. I need a way to deploy that application. That's where Argo comes in. If I am a system administrator, right, and I'm a system administrator, I make sure all my servers are always up to sync with the latest. You're going to use something like Ansible. It just makes sense, right? And Ansible has their own GitOps workflow that they follow. So if you're going to use, oh hey, I am an SRE, or I'm in operations, and I need a way to manage my fleet of clusters, OpenShift clusters out there. You'd use something like ACM, right? So it depending who you are, what your need is, you'll use a different tool, right? I'm a developer. I'm gonna be using Argo. This administrator. I'm gonna be using Ansible. I am, operations SRE. I need governance. I need, cluster lifecycle management. You're going to be using ACM. But the stuff that happens beforehand is all going to be very simple. All going to be driven through Git. So these are kind of like the tools of the trade. Kind of some of the things I want to call out here is you see Helm and that K in the corner right there stands for customize. Before I jump into the templating, right? I'm gonna make another quick pause, see if there's any questions in the chat, or in the Q&A session.
Everyone's very quiet today, Christian.
All right. Maybe I should start playing guitar soon. So.
Maybe they're saving it towards the end.
Yeah. They're maybe they are. So let's do. The tools used for syncing. I like using things like Argo CD or ACM, because it's built on Kubernetes native CRD and custom resources, right? So it's essentially Kubernetes a native way of doing it. And since if you're using a Kubernetes infrastructure, this just kind of just makes sense to use that, right? Why reinvent the wheel? Why rewrite your scripts? Why do all of that if it's there already for you? And you leverage the things like automatically detect drift and correction, right? So the synchronization can either happen manually or it can happen automatically, right? As soon as a change happens, it will detect that change, then it will fix that change for you. Some of the popular tools for syncing, things like Flux CD, which is written by Weaveworks. It was probably like the first one out there. Then Argo CD, ACM, Ansible. These are kind of just some of the examples of the tools that are being used out there. So, and really, this tool, whatever tool you use, right, has some way to declaratively represent your entire stack, right? So, for the example, the right here is a Argo CD application, is what they call it. It is basically saying, hey, take this Git repo, take this path, take this branch right here is master, deploy it to the cluster, make sure it's always in sync, right? Sync policy, always self-heal, right? Automated, you want self-heal, true or false. You want prune meaning anything that I don't keep track of, I want to get rid of, meaning that if someone accidentally adds a secret, that secret gets deleted because it's not in Git, right? So you can have policies that way as well. So the entire stack needs to be in Git, right? Namespaces, deployments, all ingress definitions, secrets, machine sets, operator manifests, all of that. I do a stream about using operators in a GitOps fashion, and actually you get some pretty interesting use cases there. So again, shameless plug, OpenShift.tv to see that. Usually the sync tool has a way to defining what gets loaded into your cluster. Right here, I'm using Argo CD, but if you're using ACM, you'd use that one. If you're using Flux CD, they have their own way of declaring what's out there. So here's the basic workflow, right? We kind of talked about the workflow, but really, I want to make something happen, make a change in Git, merge that. It's pulled, right? Push to the sync tool, right? It depends on what tool you're using. Some you do a pull method, some does a push method, right? Push pull. It'll check the sync status, meaning it'll say, okay, well, what's the desired state and what's the current state, and it's do any synchronizing if you want, right? And that ends up in your cluster somehow. So that's the basic synchronization workflow. But it's all right, not all unicorns and rainbows, right? It's not all happy. There are some challenges when it comes to GitOps, especially since it's ever evolving. Some people do a mono repo of everything. Am I going to do a mono repo? Am I going to separate repos from the base? And do I want to do it from the environment? Do I do it per cluster? You have to make kind of those decisions that'll drive your workflow, ever going forward. How do you manage secrets? How do you order dependent deployments, right? Rarely anything is ever straightforward, right? Rarely anything is ever, deployment is ever like, okay, just apply this and it's done running, right? There might be some dependencies. How do you handle non-declarative requirements, right? That's kind of something. What if I need to reach out to AWS and create something and wait for it to come up? And how do I do migrations, right? I'm doing a schema change. How does that work? So how do you do some of those? Those are some of the challenges you have to face, right? And how do you integrate with your other CI/CD tools, right? Jenkins, OpenShift pipelines. Does the CI/CD or the sync tool manage the deployments, right? How do I manage the deployments? Do I do it in CI? Do I do it in CD? That's kind of the challenges you have to face there. So there's a way to handle this with multiple repositories, right? So you have like an application right here. This is the taxi sample application is, okay, well, we have the actual the main branch, and then the main Git repo, and then we have the configuration repo, right? So, okay, we have a repo for stage and a repo for test and a repo for dev and a repo for prod, and you manage your environments separately in a Git repository. That's one approach. I've seen it done. I've seen it work. I'm not a big fan of that approach, but it does work, and I've seen some people do it. I'm not a big fan of it. I am a fan of a single repository, right? So you're going to say, why in the world are you a fan of this this view, right? Why in the world? It's actually a lot simpler to manage, and it doesn't look like it from first blush, right? So, and the reason I like the single repository is because everything is managed uniformly, right, in one repository, and it's easy to see the changes. And when you're using a templating tool, it actually becomes a lot easier because a lot of this stuff you actually don't really look at, right? You don't really actually look at the stuff that doesn't change very often. And I'll go over templating in a little bit, right? I'm kind of teasing customize, right? Because you see the customization here, files scattered around. And so, and that's really, I think, where the power comes in from a single repo standpoint. So, managing secrets, right? So, when you tell people, when you tell your security engineers, at your environment that you're going to store everything in Git, including username and passwords, they're going to be like, what? Right? Like, no, you're not. Because in secrets in Kubernetes, not encrypted, they're just base 64, right? Secrets is what they are, not what's happening, right? They're not secret. Secrets aren't secrets. Secrets are just what they are, secret information in order to connect to things. It's only base 64, so they're only encoded. So managing secrets, this has been solved a lot of ways. One of which is you can externalize your secrets, meaning that, we're not going to actually manage the secrets in Git. We'll use a system like Vault, right? So Vault, HashiCorp, they're a partner of ours. They have a product called Vault that will handle secrets for you. So you don't have to worry about storing secrets. It'll be handled in Vault. And another way of doing it is actually encrypt the secret in Git. So I actually use the sealed secrets, right? So there's a few ways to do it. Bitnami sealed secrets, the Mozilla SOP, KSOP, or there's other tools out there. These are the two biggest ones. I use sealed secrets. So the way sealed secrets work is that you encrypt your secret with a key, and then upload the encrypted secret in GitHub. So so if anyone would ever, git clone in a USB and take it outside of your environment, your secrets are essentially safe because they're encrypted. They're just junk, essentially. Because what ends up happening is that when it gets loaded into the platform, it gets decrypted on the platform. So there's some management involved in that because you need to have the decrypting key saved somewhere, right? In a vault somewhere. I don't know. In your desk on a USB key, but there's that challenge, right? You need to be able to keep. I'm kidding, by the way. Don't do that. You need to keep the encrypting key somewhere, but from a process standpoint, it's very easy because I'm storing my encrypted secret in Git. I still have a Git workflow, right? Those secrets are still stored somewhere, and I can reapply those. Anytime I lose a cluster, I don't have to scramble around to find out what the username and passwords are. So I'm a fan of sealed secrets because it kind of stays true to the GitOps because the encrypted version is stored in Git. But you can use something like Vault. Vault's very popular. They're our partner. They're on top of the game of the whole GitOps thing. So if you need something, if you still don't want to save the encrypt, even if you're not even comfortable saving that, you can use a system like Vault. So sometimes, what I was saying before about the order of dependent deployment. So a lot in OpenShift, especially, this becomes a problem because there are things like operators. Because operators, you need to subscribe to the operator. You need to create the namespace of the project before deploying the application to it. You need to approve the operator, right? And then you need to do maybe some other action in order to get that operator up and running. So you need to do things in a specific order. It's not just apply this manifest and it'll eventually fix itself. Like, you run into race conditions all the time. So there are tools inside like Argo CD, right? So Argo CD, I'll talk specifically about Argo CD because I know about Argo CD more than anything. It has things called sync phases and waves, right? And to address some of the ordering things, right? So there's kind of like three key sync phases, right? There's the pre-sync, whereas stuff that happens before your manifest. So like things that need to happen before you apply your manifest. Yeah. There's sync, which happens at the end of your sync of your manifest, and then there's post-sync that happens after the sync process is completely finished. So there is, so this could be any manifest, but they're usually jobs, right? They're usually Kubernetes jobs. So pre-sync, a job fires off, does whatever it needs to do. Once that report's healthy, then it'll apply your sync, meaning it'll apply your manifest. And then as a post-sync, you may do, I don't know, another job that does some sort of chat ops for you, right? Like it'll do it'll post something to Slack, or it'll send an email or whatever, or it'll do some cleanup. It'll log something, do a webhook. You can, the sky's the limit essentially, right? It's just a Kubernetes job. So, and then within each phase, so I'm breaking down even further. The pre-sync, for example, it has waves, right? So then you can kind of, I don't want to say it's, I guess it's more like ordering. I don't want to say handicap because you're not handicapping them. You're ordering them, right? Like you're basically saying, in this sync, in this phase, I want the namespace to be created first. Second, I want all the secrets to get created. Third, I want all the services get created. Fourth, I want, so like you can do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And it's number based, and you can go from negative numbers, you can go positive numbers. So it'll do it in the order in which you specify. So you actually do have a lot of control over how things get deployed, especially with Argo CD. Other tools have things similar to do things in a certain order. So, and then finally, there's tools like Customize and Helm that'll help you to do a lot of this stuff as well, on top of just the actual sync tool, right? Like Customize and Helm they're independent of GitOps, but you can actually leverage a lot of what they provide in your sync tool. Specific, I know from experience, specifically speaking, Argo CD and Red Hat Advanced Cluster Manager (ACM) has native support for Customize and for Helm. So, you're not losing anything by using one tool and the other. So, some non-declarative requirements. Some things that you just have to script. You just can't get around it. I know, I've done this. So, try to use as much init containers, jobs, and operators as possible. I use, for example, in one of my applications, I used to have the whole manifest and a lot of scripts to deploy a database, but now I just use a Helm chart, just because, I just need a MySQL server and I need an HA Helm chart for that. I'll just use that, right? So try to use a lot of Kubernetes primitives where possible, right? I think the catch-all is really jobs, right? Because with the job, you can spin up a UBI container, do a bash as an entry point, and just script your heart away. So I think jobs is really a catch-all. Operators is actually another good one, only because you can write an Ansible operator to do a lot of this stuff. If you're already running Ansible, you can stuff that in an operator and have the operator fire off as part of your, either as a pre-sync or as a post-sync, or as even part of your sync. And then, try to use these hooks, like I mentioned before, as much as you can. So what about CI/CD? What about your current CI/CD? Right. So for those of you who are like, well, I'm using Jenkins now or Cloudbeast. It's in the name, right? It's not Argo CI/CD. It's not Flux CI/CD. It's Argo CD. It's Flux CD, right? So Argo CD and these tools aren't meant to replace your CI tooling, your CI/CD tooling, right? They're meant to be integrated with them. So your tools like Jenkins or OpenShift pipelines, you still need to manage like your builds. That way, all the pipelining needs to still be managed the way you do, right? And so it's not meant to replace. It's meant to be an addition to. So, going back, let me go back real quick here. So, going from basic workflow, you're actually now coming to, this is kind of how the workflow looks like. So, I'll explain this real quick, and then I'll pause and maybe address some questions you may guys have. So the application developer does they will do a build on the application repo. The pipeline will run, the new image gets pushed into your image repository, and then the developer makes a change in your environment repo somehow, right? I actually like doing that with the pipeline. I actually have the pipeline make the change to the environment repo, sometimes automatically, depending on the environment. Sometimes I just make a PR. And then the infrastructure admin has an infrastructure repo that they manage and maintain. And so all of that, as you see, funnels into your sync tool, no matter what that is, right? ACM, Deflux, Ansible, whatever, gets now loaded into OpenShift, right? So you kind of have, this kind of looks complex, but the advantages you get is the developer can actually look at the infrastructure repo and see what's going on. The admin could look in the application repo and saying, oh, hey, this change you made here broke it, and I could see which commit you made. Application developer can actually request things like, I need my I need more servers because this application, is going to expect a lot of traffic. The application developer can actually go make a PR in the infrastructure repo, right? Doesn't mean it's going to get merged. It's just saying that the process is there, and this is kind of how it looks like GitOps world. So before I get into like templating, I want to pause to see if there's any questions.
There's a number of questions. Yeah, if you browse to the question section, but the first one's from Byron. Does OpenShift templates count as standard Kubernetes manifest?
For OpenShift, yes, right. So OpenShift, if you're syncing to OpenShift, those are completely legitimate because it does an apply of just the manifest. One thing, though, that I should mention is that OpenShift, we consider OpenShift templates as feature complete, meaning that there's not going to be any more updates to them. And although they'll stick around for the lifecycle of OpenShift 4, they probably won't make it into OpenShift 5 if we ever get there. So just kind of, throwing that out there. It is valid. It'll always be valid in the lifecycle of OpenShift 4. But just you should start making your way over to like deployments and things like that. Helm charts probably be a good replacement for that. So, oh yeah, I do see the questions here. So Byron here asks, how often should you sync? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna combine Byron and Marlon's questions. So yeah, he was asking how often should you sync, and Marlon was asking, do you auto sync your production? I was just gonna combine the two.
Yeah. So in an ideal world, the answer is I have things set to auto sync. Only because the idea is that if there's a change happening in your production environment, you want that rectified as quickly as possible. Only because you want your environment to match your Git repo, and so you can turn that off naturally. I have it set to auto sync, and that it checks I think every couple minutes, whatever. I think it's the default. I think it's like 2 minutes. It checks actually really, really often. I would actually have autosync turned on for production. At the very least, have notifications turned on when there's a change, so you can actually go and look. A change shouldn't happen without you knowing about it. So, so don't think the auto syncing as something scary, because that PR needed to be approved somehow. So I say auto sync turned on to yes, because the process should dictate that it is known that a change is going to happen. And then when a change outside of that scope does happen, you do want it reverted back. So, that's me in perfect world scenario. But you can have that turned off. So for those of you who just absolutely don't trust it for now, that's completely okay. You can have that. You can do it manually. Manual syncing is also okay. There's more here.
Yeah, you can carry on, Christian. There's if you can't answer the rest of the questions.
Okay, here. So let's go here. So avoiding duplication, right? So I mentioned it. What's that?
Christian, so there's a few other questions. Do you want to answer them
Oh.
now, or do you want to leave them at the end?
Yeah. So here, let me take a look. Okay. Yeah. So testing. Yeah. So this is so Byron asked, what about options automatic testing of your changes before applying? So that should really be part of your CI process. So that your CI process should be able to test those changes somehow. Also, I am a big fan of the trunk-based trunk-based development, right? So where when you have what's in dev only differs by the changes in what's in productions, right? So you've had the opportunity to do dev, the opportunity to do your changes in staging, sandbox, whatever, and then finally into production. It should be that same process. Your infrastructure should follow that same process.
Yeah, Christian. I think Terence also agrees to the trunk development methodology when it comes to a single repo. So that's definitely something to consider.
Yeah, no, that's definitely definitely true, especially when you're using monorepo. Yeah, that's definitely something to consider as well. So here. So what is triggering the decryption of vault contents OCP? So I don't we'll probably have to circle back on that. You guys probably have to circle back on that. I'm not a vault guy. I use sealed secrets, so that's that's a good question. You should probably take that offline or follow up.
Sure.
I've been trying to get a vault, someone from HashiCorp on my stream to actually talk about vault because it's something that I'm not sure about. So. Yeah, PowerPoint presentation. I will share that out
Awesome.
with the guys here, and then they'll put it together with their slide deck, so it looks all fancy.
Great.
Yeah,
Cool.
and then auto sync. Cool. So yeah. So so I was talking about before about don't duplicate your YAML, right? So GitOps, the idea is that you can you have your deployment across multiple clusters, but like, how do you manage configuration without like copying that same YAML everywhere, right? Like, how do I have a deployment for dev and a deployment for production that differ but not copy the same YAML? This is where Kustomize comes into place, right? So Kustomize is the non-template template. So it takes essentially like raw, untouched YAML from your Git repo, and then you can patch it essentially, right? So you have one. It has the idea of bases, right? So you can say, I want to take my base deployment, but when you deploy it to development, I want you to patch it to where it'll change the image tag because I'm using a different image tag. When I move that into production, I want you to take that same base YAML, patch it, and then apply it to this environment, right? So you can essentially have a base set of deployments and essentially just tweak them by a couple of lines to be able to apply them to the different environments. I like using Kustomize just because it's just really easy, really straightforward, and it's built in to almost everything. Even kubectl and OC, right? If you do an OC apply -k, you're calling Kustomize in the background to do their customized build. And this dev, right? So let's take this example. This dev here, it's really just like one YAML saying patch my image for the dev environment, right? So it can be as small or as big as you guys like. It has a base directory with all your customizations, right? So, and Kustomize is arranged in hierarchical directory structure. So that this is why, going back to the idea, is like I like having a single repo, monorepo, versus many repos, right? Because I use Kustomize, and when you're using Kustomize, that actually dictates how your Git repo actually looks like. So you'll have a base directory with contains the resources, like I said before, that is just common across everything, right? when you look up bases and customize, they're actually trying to deprecate it, but they actually have something called resources that works almost the exact same way. So you'll see a lot of repos that'll say base, other repos that say resources. They're essentially synonymous in functionality, at least. And then there's an overlay, right, where essentially you're taking the base and you're overlaying your customization on top of it. This is not only nice when you are when you're doing GitOps and you have like a base configuration files and you're just overlaying the differences. This is actually just good in general. What I end up doing is that I grab someone else's repo, and you can actually reference their repo by URL in a customized file, so you don't even have to download their YAML. I can actually just pull in their YAML, change the namespace, change a few parameters, and then there I go. I don't need to store my YAML, store their YAML in my repo. I could just store whatever my overlays are, whatever the differences are. So customize is very powerful for doing things like this, especially in GitOps. You want to use a lot of customize only because you don't want to duplicate a lot of YAML, especially when the changes are so slight, right? Maybe environment variables are different, maybe username and passwords are different, maybe the scale is different, right? I want to run more pods in production than I do in tests, for example, but like the core manifests are the same. So customize is your tool. So this is kind of how it looks like. If you look to the left-hand side here, I have something called my application. And then I have my customization file, and all my customization file in base. Remember, base is all my core YAMLs. It's basically the same for all environments. I have a service route deployment, right, standard Kubernetes thing. And then overlay, I have dev, right, where I say, I want to patch route, right? I want to say, okay, when you read the base directory, I want you to apply this patch, right? And the patch can say, replace the host, right? So like a route is something that would be different from environments. And same with tests, right? I need to fix this slide because there's a space there for whatever reason. That indent is wrong. But the same for tests, right? It's like, okay, well, the only difference between dev and test is the route. Match the route. That sort of thing. So as I was saying before, it's included in Kubernetes, so just use it. Use it where you can. It validates the YAML before deployment, right? So there's no need to lint the YAML. It'll validate it, and if it's invalid, it won't even try to apply it. And it's completely flexible, right? You can make it essentially do what you need it to do. Right. So here I also need to update this. It's not that it's deprecated; it's feature complete. So you can also use Helm, right? Helm is another, I would say, templating tool. It's really more of a package manager for application deployments, but you can also use it as a templating engine as well. So you can use Customize, you can use Helm, you can use OpenShift templates as well. But I recommend going into like something like Helm or Operators. If that's something you're still using, you can still use them, but I would recommend migrating over. So here. So talking about, now that we talked about the practices a little bit, I want to go over some of the things you can do in OpenShift natively today. So OpenShift GitOps is an operator, OpenShift GitOps operator, that is something you can deploy on a 4.7 cluster, the 4.7 or newer. We released it as a tech preview, I want to say 4 weeks ago. So, and we're targeting GA in 4.8. And it's essentially the GitOps operator. You install it, and it's a way to use. It's powered by Tekton and Argo. You can use Tekton for your CI, Argo CD for your CD process. So It's a unified way to get a Kubernetes native CI/CD process started from the ground up, right? Going from zero to GitOps now is easy in OpenShift via an operator. And so, kind of roadmap type of ideas. Builds version 2 is going to be part of the GitOps, OpenShift GitOps operator. And then also what we call the OpenShift Application Manager Deployer, what we call CAM, K-A-M, CLI toolset, which will deploy an opinionated GitOps bootstrapping way. So you can say, okay, well, I'm a developer, and I'm starting from zero, but I want to start from zero to GitOps. You can do a CAM bootstrap and provide it your GitHub key and a Quay key, or sorry, you guys call it key here. Everyone pronounces it wrong except except I guess in England and in Australia. So you can provide it that key, and you can provide the key for key, and it'll bootstrap it for you, meaning it'll create the directory structure for you. It'll create a Git repo for you. It will create the image for you, and it'll set up the CI/CD pipeline for you. So you point your CAM tool at your application code, and then it'll set that all up for you. So it's kind of like it's an opinionated way of doing it. You don't have to do it that way, but it's available there for developers. So cool. I don't know how much time you guys had scheduled. I'm at the top of the hour. I think I did a good timing on that. So I'll open it up to any and all questions or any discussion points you guys have. It's at the end of the day for me, so I have no more meetings. So I'm in over.
That's good.
Your timing was spot on.
That's awesome. It's really, the information you shared, Christian, is really interesting and useful, especially the approach on how to use GitOps. That's really useful. Mm.
And I think it definitely demystified GitOps because a lot of people got a lot of interest. For example, Customize looks interesting, as Byron was saying, and they will look into that as they migrate into OpenShift 4. So that sounds really great.
Mm.
There's a new question, Christians, from Vincent. Will you provide some GitOps example to test during the Red Hat OCP 4.8 hackathon?
So I don't know what they have planned for the hackathon. However, I will put this in the chat. How about this? I do have a getting started guide for Argo CD.
Nice. That's good.
Mm.
Yep.
So I do have. So I'm going to put this in the main chat. So not in the Q&A section. So everyone, I'm putting this in the regular chat. There's a link.
There you go.
I have a workshop getting started with Argo CD. So this is just focusing on Argo CD in general. Right now there is 3 modules. Installing, working with Customize, and then I'm actually adding sync waves and hooks later on this month. So this is just kind of just getting your feet wet. So I don't know what they have planned for the hackathon. I do have that link I just shared in the chat that you guys can go and look at, test on your clusters.
Yeah, I mean, GitOps obviously has a lot of interest, especially at least in the ANZ region, and we've seen. I have a customers who has been experimenting in that and trying to tame the GitOps beast on OpenShift 4,
Yes.
and having that example is really going to help, you showing us at least the principles or patterns on how to use GitOps is a good information overall.
Yeah, it's very interesting, to kind of see people getting kind of confused when it's actually really simple when you break it down. And you can get an example running really, really quickly, especially with already built tools out there. The migration to GitOps is easy, right? You're using Helm, you can use Helm in GitOps. You're using Customize, you can use that in GitOps fashion as well, right? So it's it's important to kind of just set the level off the playing field. It's just demystify it a little bit, and then you can start doing your use cases, see if it fits.
I have one question that I want to ask. We are top of the hour already. So, would you position GitOps as your solution towards application portability? Since we've been talking about multi-cluster for a bit now, and most of the customers are actually considering and moving into multi-cluster, even multi-cloud. So is GitOps able to handle application portability across those clusters?
Yeah. So it's actually tailored exactly for things like that. So cool. In my example, or I always talk about different environments because that's just kind of where people are right now. They're talking about like dev environment, stage environment, but those directory structures doesn't have to be dev, stage, production. It could be cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3, cluster 4, right? In that same monorepo, it can be your cluster 1 has an overlay, right? Your cluster 2 has an overlay for its different customizations. So, and especially when you're using a tool like ACM, where it's just automatically when it's just like built for deploying multiple clusters, marrying that with a GitOps workflow, it really gives you that true hybrid cloud, hybrid multi-deployment pattern, right? It gives you that a straight path towards that.
Mm-hmm. You have fans on your Twitch channel, Christian, and they're asking if you're doing a GitOps demo on your Twitch channel.
Yeah, so I have it. I posted in the chat. Where is it? I posted another link, red.ht/GitOps. Mm-hmm. That is a recording of all my of all the things I've done on the stream.
There you go.
And it's mostly and mostly that stream is really me trying to break things. So it's really less presentation and more hacking. So you can actually see things in action there too as well. So plenty of examples on there as well.
Cool. I think we need to wrap up, guys. And it's a really awesome talk, Christian. Thanks for doing this for us in our community.
Yep, no problem. Yep, it's good to be here.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. See you on the next meetup. Right. Have a good one.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Cheers.